I was thinking, and you're right. And of course you're right. You weren't making it up, but we did see Jeff Dunham. It started coming back to me, which is,
oh yeah,
I vague memories. And I was asked like, well, did you like it? I want to believe that I did not, that I enjoyed the experience, but I did not like the performance.
You laughed at it.
Did I laugh at the racist Pepper or the racist terrorist, as he calls him?
I think you just laughed at the fuzzy woozle.
Did I really?
I think you did.
The puppet anyone could get at the store is what I laughed at?
Uh-huh.
Oh, so bad.
Or perhaps the jokes the puppet was saying.
See, that's where we differ. I don't remember there being any jokes. Hey everyone ever, and welcome to 20th Century Popcast, the show where we boldly... Oh wait, the show where we boldly live in the present while going to a past no one has gone. I had it in the bathroom.
Oh, you did? But you didn't write it down?
No, I had it in my head because it's not like I've never seen Star Trek and I've never hosted this show, but I couldn't merge those together. My name is Tim Blevin.
Tim, I am Bob Canning, and Tim, I have a question for you.
That was not staged.
If you had it,
forgetfulness was not staged. Yes.
If you had it in your head and you knew that that's how you wanted to open it, and it was going to work because it was in your head,
yeah.
Why did you then get on and proceed to just do some small talk for about 10 minutes, where that information would clearly just kind of leave your head because you're talking about other things? I can't do that. If I have something in my head, I got to get it out or I'm going to forget it.
Well, I would,
especially a show open.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to point out the thing in my head was a dumb plan and opener that kind of worked, but didn't quite. I don't know. Yeah, with some small talk, I guess, before a big open like that. But people know the show. I mean, it's a show where in this century we talk about the other century. That's basically it. I've never explained it that way. How do you explain the show to people? Do you tell people you're on a podcast?
I do. I use it as a pickup line. It's really successful.
Where is this?
And I'm only half joking. I have told people, coworkers, kind of in conversation, hoping that they might think that's cool.
That's not what picking someone up is, by the way. I mean,
no. I know. That's why I'm half joking.
I mean, there are pairs of shoes I think are cool. I'm not going to pick them up. It's gross. Somebody's foot. But how do you describe the show?
I do. I basically do say that we talk about our pop culture pasts and hope that we can figure out how it led us to who we are today.
That's good. That's pretty. Should that be what we start saying? Should we saying that?
No, I like our opening work.
But you don't use it to describe the show to somebody. You don't find yourself doing a version of the show if somebody's like, "What's your show?" It's like, "Well, let me just." And you put some headphones on, and you're like, "Hey, here's the show, and this week we're talking about a fish called Wanda, and I'm a vegan," or something like that. You don't do that.
No, I don't do that.
Well, I don't then either. But I'm doing this. I'm doing this with you today. Welcome to this. Today is somehow out.
Yes.
Clearly, I don't explain the show.
Today, Tim, can you tell us where we're going to boldly go today, Tim?
Oh, yeah. That's pretty good. Something we haven't discussed on this show with no one before, maybe, I guess. Oh, my God. That was not in the bathroom. That was right here. Still
right there.
Like shit. We're doing a retro shock today, a segment on our show where we go back to something from our youth, from before, from previous now, and that had a big impact on us, but maybe we haven't been back to a while. We discuss it, and then we go and we watch it, and we come back and see if it holds up, if it still holds that place, if it still warrants the affection and nostalgia, but also meaning that we thought it had in the first place. And today I'm kind of excited for two reasons. And I think the attempts at an opening that plays off of the very famous opening of that space Western that we're discussing. We haven't done an episode. We've barely discussed a program that I think actually was a little more impactful to me than I thought. Growing up, I was always two camps on this, and I think I always thought I was in the opposite camp. I'm talking about Star Trek. Today, we're actually going to be in a roundabout way talking about Star Trek. Not Star Wars, but Star Trek. I mean, are you a Star Trek fan? Did you watch the show, the movies, anything like that?
Yeah, I watched the show for sure. Growing up, I watched those reruns. It was a nice Saturday afternoon viewing with the fam.
You're talking about the Next Generation, then?
No. I'm talking about the original series.
Oh, you are? Okay. That was on Saturday afternoons?
I think I have this recollection. It was like Saturday afternoons or maybe early evening, like a 5 o'clock show or something. Okay. Yeah, it was just syndicated and we would watch it. The family, it was a nice thing to do. And then I did watch the Next Generation a little bit. Wasn't necessarily must-see television for me, but I would watch an episode. I kind of feel like Star Trek, it has always been a nice thing to go to because you're going to get a decent episode out of it. A nice little science fiction stuff, a little morality play maybe. It was always a good filler of my time. But I wasn't, as they are called, a Trekkie.
The idea of a fan, I guess, of fandom, it makes sense in this modern age where there are comic book conventions for, everywhere. And there are My Little Pony conventions and Magic the Gathering card conventions and Pokemon conventions. We know what fanboys and fangirls are. We know what it is to be dedicated with something, And growing up, I was a huge fan of things, Star Wars, Transformers, X-Files, but my thought of it was always that was mine. I enjoyed it, and I never really thought the wider spectrum of how it impacted other people's lives, how it dictated their mindsets, their experiences, their outfits, this idea of cosplaying, everything that I understand in this digital age of sharing these things. I didn't get that prior to the internet, really. That almost everything in pop culture has a rabid following, that it means the world to them and they dress up the experience and they can be part of it in that sense.
Yeah. And it seems like you had no interest in sharing that with someone else.
Well,
so your fandom was just for you. You didn't want to sit in a room and talk about certain episodes of something.
Oh, no,
I did.
Like that. No, that's the thing. I did do that. And I did that with my friends, but there was this idea that it was insular to me and my friends. I never thought that this impacted the world at large. I got that it impacted me. And I went to comic book conventions as a kid, but you go to the tables and you look for back issues because a comic book is this physical, tangible thing. I got to get the books I want, so let's thumb through this. It was exciting to see all the books, but it wasn't about meeting artists. It wasn't about seeing movie trailers, and it wasn't about the costumes. Fandom wasn't a thing I viewed as, I guess what you're saying. I didn't view it as, the Sheridan ballroom room of people all sharing this moment. But Star Trek, I think, prior to everything else in my life, Star Trek was the thing where I first saw that kind of secondhand. Like I didn't know people who were wearing the ears. I didn't know people who were doing the hand gestures and building phasers. What I did know is that you and I as roommates in the late 90s watched a lot of VHS tapes, watched a lot of movies, something we enjoyed doing. And one particular VHS tape that we rented, and I think we rented quite often until we finally broke down and bought it. Something, and I don't know how we came to it. I don't know which one of us brought it to the other.
Yeah, I can't remember either, but I think we were both drawn to the box cover, which was...
What was this box cover?
If I remember correctly, and we've named this documentary, right? That it's called...
We haven't. I thought we would build up from the image to the title, but you might as well save the title because that seems to be where you're at.
The title is Trekkies, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And I think it had maybe like a subtitle to it as well, like Trekkies, the story of, or something like that. But on the cover was a baby, or a toddler maybe, dressed in your Star Trek uniform.
I think Mr. Spock's uniform.
He had ears on him, and I believe he was photoshopped poorly doing Spock hand gesture.
You don't think that was actual?
I don't. Although I wish it had been. I wish they had taped his fingers and put a stick up his sleeve so it would hold there. That would have been better.
That's fandom.
Yeah.
But yes, that's exactly the cover. Yeah, a little kid making the live long and prosper sign with the Vulcaneers in the outfit, and the title Trekkies, which was a funny word, which I think I knew the word. Did you know the word at that time?
I think so. Yeah. At that time, I was aware enough of the Star Trek fandom.
Yeah, and I feel like I must have read about this. It was probably promoted in comic books or something. It played in the theaters, but I missed it entirely. Apparently, it opened the same day as The Phantom Menace opened.
Really? I hadn't heard of it or known of it until we saw it on the Blockbuster shelf.
Yeah, which actually changes my memory because that means it came out in 99, if that is actually right. But yeah, it was we saw it as a videotape, and we grabbed it from the shelf, this baby blue videotape, and we brought it home, and I don't know. We knew it was a documentary, but had you seen clips? Did you know what to expect from this Trekkie movie?
I had no idea what to expect. We literally, to my recollection, just grabbed it on a whim because of the ridiculousness of the cover. I had no prior knowledge of what we were about to view.
And we didn't talk Star Trek. It's not like we had comic books or action figures. I had one Star Trek action figure. It was the Sauron figure from Star Trek Generations because it was a Malcolm McDowell action figure. It was his character. That was the only Star Trek item I think that was in the house. But yes, we brought this documentary home that we must have known was a comedy, right? And we
comedy.
Well, because we knew the subject matter. We knew it was going to be about at least I thought it was going to be about obsessive Star Trek fans, which again, for my unfortunate and I'm sorry, cruel description at the top of the show, start of the show, in my mind, for some reason, we're nerds.
Sure.
Not all fans of Star Trek, just the ones who lived their life by it, which is a pretty closed-minded thought, given where the world's at, where I've gotten to, the things I love, and the fact of the show we do. That's a horribly closed-minded thought to have. Yeah.
And I'm when you suggested this topic, I was excited to talk about it because that's a fine memory I have of watching this repeatedly with you. But then, like, I started thinking about, like you're saying, that the fact that we watched it and we laughed at it and we found humor in how these people dressed and talked. And I started thinking, this is not going to be fun to go back to because I'm not going to like the fact that I, with you, mocked these people.
And what were we mocking? What's the setup? I mean, we've described it a little bit. It's a documentary that follows various fans through their, and I think we can say this because this is what fandom is, obsessive culture about Star Trek. And you have people who are at the conventions dressed as a Klingon. You have people who wear the Starfleet shirt to work. You have people who learn to speak Klingon. You have people who are building props. You have people who are talking as if they're part of the Federation. And that was the gist of this documentary and why we kept going back to it. It was funny to us. We found humor in these characters and these stories, and then stories by the cast members.
I still quote the one bit where they go and they interview one of these guys, and he's got these cardboard boxes full of stuff, and he's pulling things out randomly and talking about what it is, what episode it was in, what it referenced, how he got it, and it's just kind of thrown together in one or two cardboard boxes. And he says, and I use this bit once in a while, and he says something to the effect of, "Yeah, someday I want to build a really big shelf
That's exactly
to put these on."
That's his view of a future goal, a shelf. Put this stuff on.
Not an armoire, not a bookcase,
not even like
some
a whole
sort of
extension room.
Yeah, but just a shelf.
And not just any shelf. A really big shelf.
A really big shelf.
But I mean, there are plenty of stories in this where you're just looking at these people and laughing, or we did.
We did.
And what you're saying is, yes, I'm ashamed of that now.
Yeah.
I'm not a stranger to that culture now. You know, I'm not, I don't find cosplay bizarre. I don't find obsessive minutia bizarre. I don't find building replicas of props and droids and things bizarre. You know, I've gone to Comic-Con. I've gone in costume. I enjoy and embrace that aspect. And I think not only do I do, the world does, at least the pop culture world we're in.
It's true. The world has changed.
I think it has. I think in the almost 20 years since we saw this movie, it has changed. And I think that's for the better. I think that's good. And I think what's weird to me is I'm engrossed in that now. What was I in 1998 or 99? Because we lived our apartment as I'm sure we've described it before, as a beacon to the pop culture we loved. And we talked about it. I mean,
my bedroom wall was a shrine to Oasis.
Right? But that's music, man. And music's cool. I'm talking about things like I embraced fucking comic books. Like, I think Kevin Smith's movies did this for me, where I became the trash talking comic book fan kind of thing. And I could do that, and I had the attachment to Transformers that was slowly becoming a little more talking to people, I guess wider spread. But these things, like, I get the mentality now, and I hope I got it then. I just don't think I ever saw it on that mass scale. So yeah, it was bizarre to me then. And I can't imagine a world where that was the case, where I would have ever been judgmental towards someone's fandom. Because if I see someone on the train sporting a prop cheeseburger backpack from Steven Universe, or when I see someone with the face made up to go as their favorite anime character to a convention, or if I just see someone, an adult, reading a Pokemon or a Nana or whatever comic book they're reading on the train, I, in my head, am embracing that view that, of course, these things are important. Why wouldn't you carry them around like they're the Sound of the Fury or some J.D. Salinger t-shirt? It's like, it makes sense. And I'm happy for it. And I believe in it. I understand what these things bring to people. But in 1999, I'm worried, and I'm guessing that maybe that wasn't the case if we were laughing at this movie. And if this movie was presenting that way, maybe the culture was also there. And I don't know. I want to see it. I want to see it again, because it's been a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is something I truly have not gone back to. We've done some retro shocks where we watched it in our youth, and maybe I also watched it 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. This I haven't seen since 1999 or whatever it was. I think it was 99.
And I will say, we always forget to do this, but let's say good memory or bad memory. This thing is a good memory.
It's a good memory. Absolutely. I mean, just the little bit we've talked about here has brought us both joy. But I think I'm nervous about it for sure.
Yeah. So let's boldly go rent it.
The bathroom.
And then to the bathroom. And when we come back, we'll see what we think about Trekkies and if Bob and I were jerks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we were jerks.
Trekking across the universe. On the Starship Enterprise under Captain Kirk. Star trekking across the universe. Slowly going forward 'cause we can't find reverse.
When I watched it last night, I felt like I was seeing some old friends.
Who were some of the ones that immediately you're like, oh, I missed this person, or oh, this person?
Well, immediately the star of the show is Gabriel.
Yes, Gabriel, the prototypical nerd, I feel like, in a lot of ways. Give us a little bit about Gabriel here.
He is just... here's something I learned or discovered or kind of realized, I guess, on this viewing. Not only is your prototypical nerd using as fancy language incorrectly. Not that he's using it incorrectly, but he mispronounces almost all the big words he says.
Such as?
I had a couple written down.
Yeah, what are some choice quotes? Because I had quotes.
I wish I had written more down. Prototypical is great. Like he's showing a uniform that was made for him, and instead of saying this is the prototype, he says that this is the prototypical version, which is just perfect for him. Let's see.
He looks and sounds like a Simpsons nerd from the show itself, like a real old school '90s nerd.
Minor quibbles. I wrote that down. That he's got.
That's the fucking line. That's the thing. There are T-shirt lines throughout this fucking movie for us because we've heard it so many times, and that's one. I mean, yes, minor quibbles like the voice, like the intonation.
Yeah.
And it's like that's not a 1980s nerd. I don't know what nerds are now. That is very much a 90s nerd, isn't it? Would you say?
I would say so. And I think also it didn't stand out for me when I first watched it, but he's also kind of an asshole. Because he has minor quibbles with this uniform that someone made for him. And it was quick to point out that the stitching is not exactly correct, but she can fix that. And are you talking about
he has a bunch of different costumes, but he has a Star Trek uniform. Here's the thing: this documentary blows my mind. This 15-year-old has a Federation uniform made by his town's Star Trek club, which refers to itself as a Federation. Everybody has a position that they would have on the ship. They meet. They're making these costumes for a movie that this Star Trek fan club is making. Yeah. A 140-page screenplay that he wrote, and with his 1997 Amiga made special effects shots for. I mean, that is all nerd culture of the moment in the 90s. He can do stuff with a computer. Are you crazy? But yeah, he has a uniform, and you think his quibbles makes him a jerk?
Yeah, because it's not just he points out every incorrect facet of that uniform, and then the one that he designed that they surprised him with later. This was one he designed for the movie out of 50 or so other designs that he had put together. They went ahead and made that for him. And he was shocked and surprised to see it. And
that's the only emotion he shows in the entire.
Yeah. And it's he's caught off guard because he really wants to wear the other outfit, but you can see in his eyes and all like, oh shit, now I have to wear this because they're gifting it to me. This is the surprise. And then when he has it on and is talking about it, he talks about all the things that are wrong with it that they have to change. So that stood out more this time. I never really caught that the first time. But yeah, I feel like he's our standout best buddy here.
I think
he's
so.
The through line through the whole thing.
Well, he is. I feel like that's who they're following. I want to flip what you said, because I think when we used to watch this, I thought, what a jerk with the quibbles. And I thought, this guy doesn't want to wear the costume that they made him and all this stuff. Watching it this time, this guy is, to use an overused term that I don't even really know the entire diagnosed meaning of, this guy's on the spectrum, correct? This guy is maybe a little, there was something there that is in how he speaks that I wouldn't have known of back then. I don't think I was quite aware of in that. I thought he was a jerk. I thought he was a nerd. I didn't like him originally. I was happy to make fun of him. This time, you're saying there's a scene when they give him that and he's like, they show him the uniform. I don't think he's capable of pretending, which is weird to say for someone who's part of a federation in this small town, but I don't think he can pretend a reaction. I think he's genuinely shocked to see it. I think when they ask him, which one are you going to wear? And he's like, I don't know. I think he means it. And I think his minor quibbles and picking stuff apart is meant as he's processing the world through Star Trek. He knows his reality through Star Trek. So when something doesn't match, he's going to challenge it. And I actually had some compassion for that this time around, because I was looking at it as, this is someone who clearly has trouble in society, has something that, and I don't know if it's from upbringing, I don't know if it's something genetic, something just doesn't click well at school. It's not just that he's made fun of and told to go home because he's wearing Star Trek clothes, which is sad that he has to do it. And two people make the observation that compares it to sports jerseys and why is this lame in sport jerseys or not? But not only is all that is going on. I mean, this is out of, I guess it's taking the whole documentary without talking about it. He wraps the whole documentary up in a way that kind of expressed this to me. Because again, I hated this character in a way that I enjoyed when we used to watch it, but I had a lot of affection for him this time, because the one piece of emotion I feel he shows, he goes to these Star Trek conventions, he's pointing stuff out to you. They have calendars, they have bookmarks, like he's showing you all the stuff, whatever. He's sitting with his dad at the end and they're just asking him, what did you think of it? And he has a quote that I think is a summation of what this movie's about and also just what I've learned from it. He's talking about the convention in his robotic, monotone sense with no sense of irony, no performance. And he's telling you what he liked about the convention. He got to meet the stars. But then he goes, I also met people very similar to myself, he says. And they're great, gorgeous people. And this is the line that I'm just like, whatever this means is how he is interacting in the world. He says they're great, gorgeous people who really know how to play Star Trek in the proper context. Which is hilarious, given everything else about this movie we're about to talk about, in a world that has a Klingon school and a Starfleet dentist office and all these things.
It's the only world he feels comfortable in. Yeah.
And these other people do it. They get it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was actually like the whole summation. Like he had his line, but there were others that had similar statements about how it's a community and they don't feel like the outsider when they're there. Mm-hmm. What was another line? Nobody's ostracized for being different.
Right?
Yeah.
Which seems like such an obvious thing that we should get. Because, of course, space fantasy, aliens, and all that, it all makes sense. And we get it now in a culture, and we were saying this before, that celebrates comic books. But I don't think in the 90s when we were watching this, that was a realization that was out there. I don't think, or for me anyways, I don't think I was thinking this is how people communicate. I don't think I realized there are people ostracized for liking this. These conventions are how they feel better, Right. I don't think I got that in the 90s. I mean, I know that's a lot of the idea behind cosplaying and comic fandom and stuff now. And I will say now is a safer time to be public about that. It's dumb to have to say it's safe. I'm saying like people aren't being ostracized. I don't think. Maybe they are in school. You have girls who are in school. What is a nerd for them right now? What's a nerdy thing at school?
I don't know that they have a clique like that. I don't think they've broken things out into nerds or jocks or anything. Really? I mean, I haven't seen it.
So what are their enemies? What do they base their social circle on?
Say again?
What are like the enemies of each other in school? What do they break down the school system into? Teenage years into? They're not teenagers yet.
I'm happy that hasn't happened yet. I haven't caught wind of some of different circles. I haven't caught wind of enemies.
Aren't there people your daughters don't like? I mean, there are people I didn't like as a kid. I just didn't like them. And there are reasons for that.
It hasn't boiled up to the point where there's somebody that they have really not liked, which I think is a good thing. I think that's a credit to the school, the way that they run things, the way that they have things organized, the way that I don't know if because you don't have kids, I don't know if you've heard about this Peace Builders thing. This is
no, I'm all hatred and warfare. So yeah, I don't really know this Peace Builders.
They've got a Peace Builders motto, which I don't remember the motto, but it's all about bringing peace and not bringing hate, not making fun, but bringing people together. And so far, my kids are just in grade school. They haven't really divided themselves up into nerds and geeks and jerks and jocks or anything like that.
Now, did you have that in grade school? When did that start for you?
I don't remember it in grade school. That's not true. I'm actually having a remembrance of 5th grade. So maybe it starts in 5th grade and my kids aren't quite there yet. I remember that there were a couple kids that were picked on, and I hate to say I was one of the kids that would pick on them for being kind of dorks, I guess maybe is what we used.
Yeah. I think that was from like 2nd grade on. I feel like 2nd or 3rd grade. I feel like it was.
I have a horrible
of 3rd or 4th grade of going along with someone who was mocking this kid. There's this kid named Lenny something or other, and Lenny's an unfortunate name because of Lenny and Squiggy and of Mice and Men, but that was his first name. Kid had it kind of rough, wore a backpack all the time, blah, blah, blah. Was made fun of, and I was in line. I remember this because you would line up to go outside to get on the bus. So this is 4th grade, I guess I'm thinking. And I was standing behind cool kid Randy Colburn who played drums and knew what OB was because he would sing that OB theme all the time, which meant he knew something about women to me, I guess, because I didn't know what OB was. But I was standing behind him and I just wanted attention, I just wanted to be validated. I wasn't a nerd or whatever, but I wanted the cool kid to notice me. So I said something dumb, something that I probably had heard on some dumb sitcom, something along the lines. I don't remember the setup of, Lenny, his head bone is connected to his legs or something like that. Something like being a butt head, probably some dumb joke. But I made that. This kid, Randy Colburn, laughed. And then Lenny, who heard it, looked weird. And I felt awful, but I knew the designations were there. He couldn't be my friend in that scenario because it was there and it's gross, Yeah. And I just, that's why I'm like, it's interesting to me that if your kids aren't experiencing that, maybe they're good kids. I can't imagine society has cut that out. I'm just,
oh no, I don't think so entirely.
I'm just wondering what has it transformed to? Like, I think science fiction is wholly acceptable. And I think Star Trek and Star Wars and superheroes, again, maybe I'm just going off of my own standing, but like, I don't know if I was ever embarrassed by these things. Transformers and G.I. Joe, maybe by the time high school, I kind of kept that private. So I guess there's that, but like, I don't know, like when we were watching Trekkies, we were into a lot of this stuff, but it never felt nerd based to me. It felt like a matter of fanboy pride. I had the proud sort of, I think seeing Mallrats did that for me. The Brody character in Mallrats, who's just this loud, brash comic book fan. Like I got and ripped that off. And that's how I stood behind my culture, my subculture. But that summation in the movie about acceptance, do you remember that from when we used to watch it? Did that strike you back then?
Oh, no, not at all, because we were sort of doing the opposite of all of that as we watched this.
We were laughing
and so,
at it.
Yeah, we were laughing at them, not with them. We weren't there to find acceptance and see people that were like us. These people were different, and we mocked it.
Now, is
at that time.
Is the documentary mocking them?
See, that's the interesting thing. I found it to be very two-sided sort of documentary because one thing I noted when I first brought it up on my screen, it has the cover there with, as we've talked about, the baby,
little baby
in costume. It also had a tagline underneath it, which I made sure to write down because I thought this was going to be a clue. And again, this was before I started watching it again, sort of a clue as to what was intended. And it says, Trekkies, a hilarious look at the universe's most fervent fans. Hilarious look. And I think we kind of talked about this before. I think it wanted us to laugh. I think it wanted to be seen as a funny movie. It was presenting these people and this fandom and these scenes and these moments as something to laugh at and possibly to laugh with, but nobody else was really laughing in it. I found it that's what they wanted you to do. But at the same time, intercut with the real fans and the many laughable moments perhaps were real moments with the actors from the show and other people that's worked on the show talking about these fans in a very revered way and the whole experiences that they've had being on the show and then going through the experience of these conventions starting up and how they started up and what it meant to them. That was real and sentimental, and it seemed like it was two different documentaries. You had one from the actor's point of view, and then one, not necessarily, I guess, from the fan point of view, but in a way that it's okay for us to find them to be kind of ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And I still do find a lot of it kind of ridiculous.
Like what? What's ridiculous in this fan film?
Oh, well, you mentioned Starfleet Dental.
I hate that guy.
Let's talk about that guy and yeah, because he doesn't seem to be on any sort of spectrum.
So no, now what is the Star? I don't know if people watch this movie. I don't know if they've seen it. The Star Trek Dental is the name of his practice, and what is it?
So basically, it is his dental office, which is decked out in all sorts of space themed stuff, mostly Star Trek. But not all Star Trek.
There's an R2D2 trash can in there or something.
There's an R2D2. There's also just a disco light at the door.
That's outer
just
space.
Flashing colors. So, I mean, they were going for the theme, but they couldn't quite get everything. But man, I don't know where they found all their cardboard standees. But they had a lot of random character standees.
Do you remember the Man from Atlantis store in Harvard Square that sold those? Newberry Comics sold them too. It just sold tons of those flat, life-size characters.
I have a vague, now that you mention it, I have a vague recollection of that place.
I don't know what started that as a trend. Like what was the first one? Like I would think like, okay, an NBA star who's really tall, or
oh, sure.
Something like that, because you can measure yourself up against. There's other tall sports, but that's what I'm thinking of. But like, like
I had a Braveheart one.
Did you really?
Which I actually, because I snagged it from a movie theater.
But it's the same concept. You want a life-size cardboard.
No, but that's what I'm wondering if that's where it started. Is like they've got these cutouts, they make them for movie theaters or to sell things, and then you got to do something with them. And then there's these fans that are interested in them, and then maybe somebody caught on and was like, "Oh, well, if we're giving them away, let's sell them."
But he's cluttering up his dental practice with them. Like, how do you maneuver around?
Oh, it's a mess.
Pose Kirk and that Spock with the hand behind his back. Yeah. But so it's a authentic dental center, and everyone's wearing Starfleet uniforms. And you're right, there's all this merchandise, and they cut to him sitting on his couch with his family talking, and they're all dressed up in the outfits as well. That's the thing; like these people are choosing to present themselves in costume. They're choosing to present themselves as fans, and I don't know if they were asked to. I don't know if they're like. In a minute, I'm going to ask the one person I think who's performing in this. I want to ask you about that, but I don't know if these people are performing. But this guy represents to me the still obnoxious, gross side of fandom items that are out there. Like I'm not convinced he's a fan of Star Trek. I think he found a gimmicky thing and he forces it on people. That's what I hate. Like he's forcing this people to embrace his thing. Like I get it. You don't have to go to the dental office that says Star Trek Dental. But it's kind of like it's every fucking inch. I'm saying this without name dropping the individual that we both know that I'm talking about who used to fucking do this. I mean, he's basically putting all of his action figures out, all the new ones you don't have, all the pricey ones, and they're all out, on display. Not the ones that he likes, not the ones that mean something for him, not the ones that look cool as wall art, but everything. Like you're saying, there's cardboard standees. Part of me is thinking, like, is it a gift shop? Because he has stuff in boxes here and there. He has toys in boxes and trading cards. And it's too much. It's that side of fandom where it's like you've gone beyond enjoying something. You've gone beyond maybe trying to share something. And now you're just shoving it down people's throats because you want to be the Star Trek guy. The Star Trek dentist. Not that you like this, and maybe having a poster on the ceiling when you look up might help, or having a couple of things here and there. Because here's the thing. I fucking love Star Wars. I fucking love the Transformers. Outside of a theme park, though, I don't want to walk into something that is wall to wall that. Unless it's a replica or something, like I'm walking around Cybertron or I'm on the Millennium Falcon. But I like going into stores and stuff, but like I don't want to be in someone's house where it's just here's everything in the world tacked on the wall in a package. And that's what this fucking guy does. And he makes people, in a way that he finds almost funny, participate in it. He dresses his wife up. He dresses his kids up. He dresses his staff up. Everything has to fulfill his fandom, which I guess is fine, but I find that repulsive as we do this pop culture podcast. I find that it's just like, how are you living it if you're constantly brandishing it?
So rewatching it when you saw this segment, well, first, do you remember like what your reactions were to him when we first watched it? Was it just as much anger at this situation, or was it just,
no, I thought he was
an opportunity to mock this guy?
I remember thinking in my closed-minded East Coast way, this guy's a hick. I thought a lot of these people were dumb hicks, which is a stupid way of thinking. I apologize. That's very close-minded. No, I remember thinking it almost funny because it's kind of like he and his wife, who's dressed up as Deanna Troi at one part from Next Generation, are talking. Oh, the documentary is hosted by Denise Crosby, who played Tasha Yar in the first season or 2 seasons of Next Generation. So she's the one going around interviewing these people. And what I always think of that guy for is this movie introduced me to the idea of cosplaying for sex, because they are talking to Denise Crosby and they're talking about how they spice up their sex life by dressing up as different characters.
That's right.
She's too short to play Tasha Yar, so he plays her. And then the wife plays Riker or someone, and they're telling this to Tasha Yar. And I remember as a kid thinking, or as a kid, whatever we watched this, that's what I remember him as sort of the Star Trek sex guy. And at the time, I was repressed enough to think the perverted Star Trek sex guys. But it's like, no, I get it now. I get getting off on those fantasies. That's awesome. I get costume and sex play. I didn't get it at the time, but I think that's what I saw him as. I don't remember being angry like he was somehow insulting. Like, that's the thing. Like, none of these people seemed clever to me back then or seemed worthy of anger. I wasn't relating to them, I guess, but no, it just seemed funny that he was doing this.
Yeah.
And he seemed lost. Cause also I felt like he's got the hot wife and he doesn't know what to do with her kind of thing. You know? But this time around, he was my least favorite part of this, probably. There's a couple people I didn't care for in this.
Yeah, like you're hinting at, he seemed like the most insincere. You know, the one that like you're saying is just kind of found something to latch onto, gimmick. Yeah, maybe he likes Star Trek, but he made a choice to go this far. Because it was going to allow him to stand out in the dental industry, I guess. And
he got rewarded for it because he's in the fucking documentary. And I guess that's what bothers me. He got rewarded for showing off.
Yeah, whereas the other folks, I think, it's almost not a choice for them. It's just what they love. And I mean, not everyone, but some of the main people that got interviewed, especially early on,
like who else?
Like Gabriel, for instance, and the commander.
Oh yeah,
I think she too is like. I mean, she's probably Commander on the spectrum as well.
So who's Commander? Let's explain this, because Commander, I think, is what they built, not the documentary around. But I think she was the inspiration to do the documentary, and I don't remember this happening before the documentary.
No, I don't recall it either. But her claim to fame is that
Barbara Adams, I believe, is her name. I think I wrote that down.
Thank you, because I did not. I wrote down Barbara. I didn't know her last name. She lives in Little Rock, and she, like Gabriel, was part of a local Federation,
the Federation
club.
Alliance.
Yeah, and they were part of the Federation Alliance, meaning they all had their designations. She was the commander. There were other people.
This century
had their uniforms.
Or this last century, so they couldn't fly a ship.
Last century,
20th century,
they
is when they were part of the Federation.
Yes, they served their community. They volunteered. This was their little organization. It's the Elks, you know. It's the Moose Lodge,
Space
Elks.
But
it's not. It's Space Elks. But that's what it was, and she believed in it. And so, like any club that had uniforms, any sort of organization that she wanted to honor, she was called onto the jury for Whitewater, I believe it was.
Yes.
Which was the Bill Clinton, President Clinton scandal. And so she goes to jury duty fully decked out in her Enterprise Commander uniform.
Yes.
Tricorder and everything.
And sunglasses.
Very big sunglasses. Giant sunglasses. And so that became national news. Yeah. National news meaning, insider.
Yeah, I think we see an insider clip, but there's newspaper articles, everyone making fun of the Star Trek juror who's going to jury duty. Yeah, in costume. I don't remember that happening, but I definitely remember it in this documentary. And when we first watched this documentary, yeah, I thought it was ridiculous. I thought she was ridiculous. She's convinced she's in the Federation. She's not aware of her surroundings. Like, she tells the story about how she was on a bus and the bus driver turned around and said, "Why are you wearing that costume?" She's like, "Because it's my Federation. It's my military costume." And she said, and he turned around and he looked at me and he said, "You are a brave woman." And when she tells the story, she pauses and a smile comes over her face and she thinks that that's a compliment. That is not a compliment. He's mocking her, and hers would be a sad story. I mean, that's what I think I used to think, that that's sad. That's pathetic. She doesn't get that the world's making fun of her. And that's how I used to view it. However, she does make the observation. She talks later about, they ask her, "Why did you wear it?" She says, she's talking about how, like, nobody cares about sports jerseys. People can wear sports jerseys. I think we had just said this a moment ago, but this uniform meant something to her. And so she wanted to wear the uniform, and she wore it because she didn't want the crew members of her Federation to ever feel ashamed. And when she says that in the movie, I think this is after you see her working at the photocopy shop, which just makes her sadder to me because I've worked at a photocopy shop. But it's like she's in this Federation uniform talking about all these grand ideas, and she walks in and it's like, "Commander, do we have the 42 prints for the 3," whatever the lingo is. And it's just sad. Right. But she seems a little like she's missing a couple of space screws in the head. But that, again, she, similar to our what's his name that we're following through the whole thing. What's the nerdy kid's name? Gabriel. Similar to Gabriel, she has a moment that for me this time, not when we used to watch it, but this time was such a moment of clarity where it is about pride. And for her, it's also about other people. She's doing it so the rest of her Federation wouldn't feel bad about doing it. And that really got to me this time. Yeah. It got to me that, well, this does mean this much to her. So what is so wrong about her wearing it? And more so, she doesn't seem she really believes she's in the Starship Federation. That part is a little difficult to operate with, but she also really believes in some ideals.
Yeah, and I think that's why the dentist stands out as such a creep this time around.
The guy running the comic convention or the convention stands out for the same way to me because he's all about money. What can I put a price on? The Q virus and all this stuff. Like that guy.
Oh, that guy. Yeah,
I didn't like that guy.
There are a couple guys like that weren't necessarily part of the Trekkie community, but were monotonizing it and getting whatever they could out of it.
The KLOS DJs. They're the worst.
Yeah, those guys. Like, I don't even know why they're in this.
Because they got to interview Tasha Yar, I think.
Perhaps.
Because I think in the 90s they were cool. They're your typical morning show dudes. Like, hey, I don't get Star Trek. Hey, you cannot get this is what, and he did what one of them is acting like, I don't get it. I don't know. Star Trek, what, blah, blah, blah. It's like you're doing what people do, which is like you can grasp a concept of something you don't like. I've never read the Harry Potter books. I get it. I could tell you that, they're about a wizard boy in a school. All those words make sense to me. It's not beyond the realm of my grasp as a professional in whatever medium I'm in to not understand, Star Trek. Like, those are just it was a douchebag who's like, isn't it crazy? I don't get your thing. And I bet if the documentary had been about NASCAR, if the documentary had been about, 70s musicians, he would do the same thing. Like, I just don't get these cars going in a circle. I just don't get music. And then it's recorded. You play it. Like, they like doing that. I hate those fucking people. People have to go out of their way to be like, and they think it's funny. And it's always the same joke. We're like, hey, the new Star Wars movie's coming out. Oh, is this the one with the Enterprise B? Like, they have to make it's like, I get it. I guess that's funny, but it's just like, you're doing that to show you're above it. And who cares? Right. You don't have to be above it because you're not fucking into something. And that seems out of place in this documentary. That, like you're saying, why are they there? I don't know. I don't think either you follow that story or you cut that out. So those were douchebags. But you know what? All disc jockeys in the 90s were douchebags, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah, they like pull that right out and you don't lose a thing from Trekkies.
Well, you lose our little bit here, which is great.
Well, yeah, you lose that. But who you had mentioned earlier that you think there's someone in here that's performing.
I think so. And I feel bad
performing
saying it. I think
like
that
a plant.
maybe, or just
because
almost like it's David Cross. It's
okay.
You referenced this person in the first half of the show. The guy's name is Eric Larson. I don't know if it's the same Eric Larson who draws and created Savage Dragon. I think they both look similar. He's the guy. He's so excited by the Star Trek memorabilia of a marshmallow dispenser, of a Star Trek sticker. He's showing you his Star Trek collection, but it's all like these little things like, look at this, pop-up books. They were the biggest thing in my childhood. He's the guy you said was like, what I really want to get is a really big shelf to put my stuff on. And he's what I would think if they were to make a show about a nerdy collector then or now, that would be this guy. Because he just seems like he's really like, oh, I'm looking for his catchphrase. That's why the shelf thing happens. He's too excited about his marshmallow dispenser from Star Trek V. That's the guy I think
he's too I think he's kind of performing too, because he's too excited, but then he also doesn't seem to know what he's looking at. It's almost like he's picking something up and then reacting to it. It's like, oh yeah, and then we had these things.
I feel like
marshmallows.
That's the sound guy. Like whoever's collection that was either said, I don't want to be on camera, or was so hideous or was so plain. Like, I collect these things. And that's all they had to say. They're like, all right, do you mind if we just get a couple of stills and stuff for the documentary? No, go ahead. He left the room. And then there was just like, just grab the shit. I don't know. Just say, here's some words you could say. Phaser, Romulan, marshmallow. And that's what he did. And it's funny. But that this time around, I'm like, okay, that's what this documentary isn't. Like, it's good that it wasn't.
And it's only that bit. Like a lot of these people, we come back to. We leave them for a while. We come back to them. We get kind of a story from them. This guy is just this one scene, but we don't ever come back to that collection or to that person.
And that's what makes me think that this documentary doesn't care for the fans. I think they're trying to make you laugh at them, because that guy is there to laugh at. And again, I think it's good if a documentary shows you both sides of something, because the character a character that's hard to laugh at, and I know I used to, and the character who does not come across in a positive light, like all of these people, you can find something. Like even the dentist guy, there's something in there. I guess you could find something. The character, I say character in this documentary, who I fear comes across the worst. There's nothing redeeming. It's very sad. I used to find it very funny, but now I'm just like, fuck the filmmakers for putting this in. Anne Murphy is her name. Fuck me for saying her name. She is a huge fan of the Data character played by Brent Spiner. She's not a fan of the word Trekker. She's not a fan of the word Trekkie. She
doesn't like the connotation.
She doesn't like the connotation.
She doesn't like what that implies.
But she came up with a term that she makes a point to say twice. One time when they're not even asking her about it, called SPINNER-FEMS. She's a fan of Brent Spiner, who has pictures of Brent Spiner that she's taking. So many pictures of Brent Spiner, in fact, that some of the pictures are photographs of all of the pictures. She has paintings she's done of Brent Spiner. She has all of his action figures. She has a website so people can find not information about Data, but information about Brent Spiner. And she lives in a house that is positioned on a hill that looks out towards another hill that is probably not the hill that Brent Spiner lives on, but if it was, she imagines him on that hill as she's looking out towards him to see him. And she does this.
She says that. Yeah, she said that she found out where he lives, and she realized that from her porch or back deck, she can see not his house, but the hill upon which his house is located at the bottom of. Mm-hmm. And so she'll come out and look at that hill. And
this is a dangerous person. This is a person that after this documentary, I would imagine Brent Spiner took out some sort of legal action that if she ever comes to a convention, keep her away.
And he does the polite thing too. And I think they all do this at some point. They being the actors, when he was told of this group of SPINNER-FEMS, he was like, "Wow, that's great! How interesting that they take that time and have that fandom. That's I like that term, yeah." But yeah, I agree with you. I think afterwards he was, taking precautions.
Yeah, and so that. And again, I guess it is good that it's in there because they're showing you the wide girth or breadth or whatever of these people. But these people, sorry, that sounded horrible. But I don't know, because I remember finding her very funny when we used to watch this movie. Sad, but funny. And just being able to laugh at her and say, "You're crazy." But now it's like, that's legitimately unhinged.
I don't know if I realized people could become unhinged from this sort of thing. I thought it was, I was still of the mind that this is innocent fandom, innocent fun, maybe just an innocent crush that she's taking to another level with the pictures.
I guess this
and the daydreaming. But I agree with you. The more I know about the world, this is the type of person that you kind of have to keep an eye on, perhaps.
Right? And it's weird because how do you, unless the documentary's not about that, so you don't handle her that way, but she's there, she's in it, and she's a public face in the public now that people are going to know. So yeah, that to me, like, 'cause I used to that's one of the parts I really remember from this was her and her little break. That's another line I think we used to quote. And I was a little uncomfortable by her this time. Like, it was kind of hard to watch her sequences right from the start of it too. Cause I'm like, oh, right. It just sort of built up in my mind. Cause I don't think I have that kind of fandom. I mean, I know I or maybe when I was younger, I did. I think now I understand that art and the artists are different. Maybe I don't, but I don't think I have that. Cause like we've gone through, I think when I discovered how the internet worked, I printed out Fairuza Balk pictures and put them up on my wall. That's weird. Because first of all, you're printing out a photo in 1996, so it looks odd. It's all grainy and pixelated. And I've got them on my wall. I've got my Fairuza Balk for my Fairuza Balk break when I want to take that. So yeah, that is kind of creepy.
Fairuza free time.
Oh, that's even better. Fairuza is not very good. You said it was great. But I grew out of it. I mean, this woman is probably in her 40s. She has a kid.
Yeah, she looked about 35 to 40. Yeah.
I mean, are we being judgmental, or should we? Because we're allowing I keep forgetting everyone. Douglas to have no, not Douglas. What? We're allowing everyone to have their life with their ways. We're allowing us to not judge them for that. The main guy whose name I keep forgetting, Barbara Adams. Like I've learned to be fine with that. Are we being harsh on this woman? Like, what is the different line there? Is it because she's aimed at the person, not the
I think that's it. I think that's exactly it. Because she is focused on the person, not even on the character.
So she doesn't celebrity have versus the actual work.
Yeah, she doesn't have photo albums full of data pictures. She has photo albums like stalking. It's stalking. She goes and she has taken hundreds of pictures. I mean, I bet if you put them all together sequentially and flip through them, you have an animated moment there
of his face dropping,
of him walking across the stage to grab the microphone because she took all 80 pictures that it would take for him in those 3 seconds. That's a little creepy. I don't think we're being judgmental. I think we're getting just a small window, and maybe we're blowing it up. Maybe it's not that bad, but we're seeing this small window and we're kind of imagining what maybe the bigger picture might be for her.
So is that out of place in this documentary? Because
I don't know that it is from the perspective of the documentary, like you're saying, kind of showing, because most of the people that were interviewed and featured were male.
That's not entirely true. Actually, there's a lot. In fact, I had forgotten. There's more women in this, and it's great that there is than I remember.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying there aren't. I'm talking about the ones that are kind of featured. There was really just besides her, I feel like
the two radio
Barbara
Trek Talk. There's Barbara.
Oh yeah, I guess
there's the Klingon lady who actually
I guess I don't
talks to
feel like
William
the Trek Talk
Shatner.
people and the Klingon woman. I don't see those as featured people because I feel like the featured ones you come back to.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the Trek Talk people they did come back to at the end.
Do you just not enjoy looking at the Trek Talk people? That was hard.
Her hands, man.
Yeah, she wasn't in Klingon makeup, but I feel like I could be.
See, now why is it okay for us to? We're talking about how we used to make fun of these people, these fans, these characters, these stars of this thing, and we're admitting that it's not the right thing to do. That the whole point is to be okay with who you are and who they are and not feel ostracized or picked on, to be yourself. But we're still finding moments to poke a little fun. Is that okay, Tim? Is that okay to still find the humor in these people?
We're bad people for doing it. We're people for doing it. I mean, is it fine? I mean, it's what we're doing, and we do, and it's unavoidable. No, that's not a good thing at all. Of course it isn't. It wasn't a good thing when we did it then because it's picking on someone the way I picked on poor Lenny, whatever his last name is. I'm going to say Kravitz, but it wasn't in school.
Yeah.
It's shitty. And obviously necessary in some perverted, gross way internally. I'm not saying necessary. It's a bad character trait. And I don't hear you doing it. So, you're a good person. But yeah, it's my least... mocking people is not the greatest trait.
Yeah, I just mocked that woman's hands.
Yes, you did. You're awful.
I pointed out
that woman's hands. No, but
I am.
Yeah. No. Why? Yeah. There's no way of saying that's good. It's not, and it's not like it's commentary on something. It's not like it's shitty because people are shitty.
That's true.
Did it, and we do it, and we're not above it.
Did you laugh? Did you laugh out loud? Because I just remember when we watched this, we would laugh and have comments to make and laugh. Watching it, did you watch it alone?
I did, sadly. Well, my cat was there, but
I also watched it alone with a cat.
Oh.
Yeah, look at us. Somebody make fun of us, quick.
I think you just did.
I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh out loud.
You didn't laugh out loud during this?
I didn't until there were two parts, or maybe there was one part for sure.
Okay. When was
there were
that?
two parts that I laughed out loud, and both occurred near the end with, and I don't think I wrote his name down, but the guy that made the
Captain Pike,
the mechanism.
Yes.
Captain Pike.
Here's what I'll tell you about that. I didn't stop laughing for the duration of that segment. I was starting to lose I was getting a little fidgety with this documentary, but I will be honest, I like it. It's not that long, but they started having that part where they are talking about the words Trekker versus Trekkie, and you have Captain Janeway doing her Abbott and Costello bit of, well, Trekker is going with us, but a Trekkie is going to go to the restroom. And I'm like, okay, I get it. It's fine. It's actually a good conversation because it is curious how people identify. But I was just like, okay, I'm getting a little tired of this maybe or whatever. I have to finish it. And then we cut to this gentleman who, I didn't write his name down either, who is building props and talking about props and made a blueprint for Nomad, which is a robot from an episode of Star Trek.
A blueprint,
which is a piece of paper he folded over with a circle drawn on it and a tower or like a pole and the word Nomad. And this guy is sad. But for those who know Star Trek, the original pilot, there's a character named Pike, Captain Pike, who is in some sort of an accident. So his face is all gnarled. He can't speak. So it's his head, and he's encased in this black box, and it has 3 lights in the front, or 2 lights. I don't know. Fans do.
One light
of how to communicate.
I mean, I don't know what it was officially in the show, but in the what this guy made only has 1 light.
This guy with his, what do you call those hats with the ear covers on them that you always see like Canadian hicks wearing?
I don't know what the term is, but it's like the earmuff hat. Yeah.
He's wearing that, but he's wearing He's wearing the pike.
It's like a hunter's cap.
He's wearing a hunter's cap, which is funny, but he's wearing the box of the Captain Pike. Again, it is just a black box with a little bit of a slant in the front, and he's sitting in it and driving around on the highway, going to the store, going to Radio Shack, looking so unhappy, so miserable. And he gets to Radio Shack and talks to the poor employee who must have signed a release form but doesn't want to be on the camera. And this
guy is the best. The Radio Shack employee. That's the other thing I laughed at. That guy, I could watch that guy.
I couldn't stop.
Oh my God. The look on that employee's face.
Maybe they didn't get his permission.
Maybe they didn't, because he doesn't speak.
When he's asked a question, he
is asked a question.
I talked to Craig about my Nomads project, I believe, is the start of the question.
Is he here? And the dude kind of looks at the camera side-eyed, looks at this guy.
Like this guy's not supposed to be there, is the feeling. Like
he just shakes his head no.
Oh, yeah.
He just shakes his head no. That's it. He won't speak. He just shakes his head no. And not even like it's slow and like, I'm not supposed to be here. This isn't happening in front of me. This can't be happening. And then you see him again later as the guy's talking to him about parts. And again, he's standing there terrified that this person's in the store and this camera's on him. I love that guy.
I love this sequence. And this is the thing. This whole sequence is what this documentary could have been. Because I can look at this documentary, look at the people in this documentary, and I can point my finger and judge, like we're saying, like dick stew, like shit stew, like jizz dick shit stew, and just judge them as not being. And this is what we used to do in our 20s. Like no one in this came out looking like anything but a bizarre caricature and a loser back then. What has changed in my view of that, I think, is that I get where they're coming from, but I still judge these people and watching them, and like, are people judging me? Am I judging me? And I don't know what, at the end of the day, it's like, I'm not going to convert my house into Optimus Prime's trailer, but I'm going to have that trailer as a toy out somewhere, and I'm going to constantly go back to, I'm doing it right now. We do this podcast. I know it's the nature of the podcast to do this, but this is the only thing I have. Not the only thing, but these pop culture touch points are all I have. I don't have another way necessarily of connecting. So maybe that is immature. Maybe that is underdeveloped. And I don't know what it means that I don't want to abandon any of that. And that maybe it's healthy, maybe it's not. I don't know. Because I don't. Because I don't know how to do it otherwise.
How do we find out? Do we want to find out?
Well, those are two different questions. I don't know. Because to find out that I am immature at this point means I'm done, because I'm not going to mature further. I mean, a lot of lost time if that's the case. I don't necessarily believe that, but I don't know. Watching this documentary was bittersweet for that. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved seeing it again. Hated myself for who I used to be when I watched it. Like, I used to love the memory of the time you and I had watching this. It is a memory I would come back to. We talk about good memory, bad memory. It was a great memory. The reality of how we watched it was bad. Not bad, but it was not a high point in how I view humanity. And I hope I've grown a bit. But I used to watch this to mock these people. And I don't think I'll go back to it again. I think it's a great documentary, but I'm not going to go back to it again because I don't want to mock these people, which says what it says about me. And that's shit, Yeah. It should be a good reality, but for me to really, and I got something out of it this time. So that is a good reality. But the other reality also is I used to get off on being exactly the person I thought I wasn't, which was the judgmental person who mocked people who were into stuff I wasn't. I mean, what about you? Is this a good reality, having this movie, having watched it?
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. I think it's like you're saying. It shines a light on what our approach was back in the day, and I think it sort of clarifies where I am today, in that I don't see it the same way, and I don't feel good about having watched it the way we watched it. I, like you're saying, I enjoyed our time together in that moment, and that was what that was. But I do like that I've grown beyond that. So good experience to rewatch it.
Mm-hmm. But like KLOS DJs are the worst, right?
God awful.
They are awful.
Yeah.
Really awful. And mullety. There's a lot of mullets in this film.
It's of the era.
I guess so. 20th Century Popcast was everything you just listened to. Thank you for listening to it. If you want to listen to more of it, hey, I think you should. I'm proud of the show. We're 50-something episodes in. I'm very happy with it. Check us out at www.20popcast.com. That's the main website for the show. The latest episode is always up there streaming on the main page. Plus, you can go back and listen to all of our past episodes. You'll also find some contact information there, so you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. You can subscribe to the show on both Android and Apple devices. And I will beg with you, something I would like to hear. If you do like the show, could you drop us a little review on whatever platform you listen to? I know Apple, if you listen to this on iTunes, Apple has a pretty nice system. I'm sorry to say, I know they're Apple, where you can review and give star ratings, whatever. And it helps the show. It helps me and my ego. I don't know if it helps you, Bob, but also helps the show kind of get noticed.
I'll take it.
Stay cool, everybody. I still haven't gotten the new catchphrase down. What was it?
No, I don't know.
Well, you
because
said it.
I don't pay attention to those things or listen to our podcast.
Imagine if that was the catchphrase. I don't listen to the podcast, but it's not. Yeah, keep it.
Stay cool, everybody.
Yes.
Mars ain't the kind of place to raise a kid. In fact, it's cold as hell.
I hate Jeff Dunham. I'm going to actually, if nothing else, I'm using that clip because I want people to be clear on that.
That you hate Jeff Dunham. Okay.
Timothy Edward Blevins hates Jeffrey Mengler Dunham. I may have mispronounced one of those. He sucks.